Shalom, brothers and sisters. Today we're going to go over a special subject because, as you've been noticing on the news, our people, black Hispanics and Native Americans, they mainly show black, but the Native Americans also, they get done this way on the news. You know, our people are getting shot out in the streets by cops, by just regular white people, sometimes. Like the case with Trayvon Martin, this man wasn't a police. He had he was not in law enforcement at all. And the brother walked through his neighborhood and, he got basically gunned down and shot. So today we're going to go into the book of Titus 3:1, which is after 2 Timothy. We're going to show why this is happening to our people and what we got to do to get out of this situation. Because all these things are prophesied in the book of Deuteronomy 28, which we'll go into later.
All right, my name is Apari, and this is the book of Titus, chapter 3, verse 1. Put them in mind to be subject to principalities and powers, to obey magistrates, to be ready to every good work.
All right, so we're supposed to teach our people that when they go in front of, when they have to obey powers and obey magistrates, and magistrates meaning judges and principalities. So when we're dealing with these law enforcement officials, these judges, these lawyers, we gotta obey. We gotta obey what is set up here, because we are in captivity because of our sin. So if police stops you, you cooperate. Yes, sir. No, sir. You need my license, whatever they ask for. And if you're breaking the law, then it's on you. You understand? So, basically, we cannot be doing that. We have to obey the powers. We cannot be coming up against, talking about we're going to do this to the police and we're going to do that. We're not supposed to be doing that. 1 Peter 2:12.
1 Peter chapter 2, verse 12. Having your conversation honest among Gentiles, that, whereas they speak against you as evildoers, they may be by your good works, which they shall behold, glorify God in the day of visitation.
All right, so it says we're supposed to be honest, have our conversation honest among the Gentiles. All right, so we're not supposed to be out here stealing and, robbing and doing all kind of foolishness out here. All right, this is why things happen to us, because we're not obeying what the Most High says. So when it says honest among the Gentiles, they can't speak against us. We got to be blameless. We cannot have fault. It's not saying we never sin or we perfect, but we cannot have no one can't be pointing to none of us and saying, "Oh, see this guy, he's a drunk. He be out in the street drunk all the time. How is he your elder?" No, that's not supposed to happen. Or this guy, got a bunch of different, baby mothers, not wives, and he's just being a whoremonger. We're not supposed to be doing that. We're supposed to be honest. Even among the other nations, we're supposed to be honest. So if you see somebody drop some money, you're not supposed to put it in your pocket. You're supposed to give it back to them. And you're supposed to be honest. You're supposed to live an honest life. Not out here committing crimes and doing criminal activity and thinking that is okay. Because when you do stuff like that, this is why the Most High uses, certain, the powers that be to beat you, basically, put you in jail, even sometimes shoot you. Because why? Because you're not obeying what the Most High says. All right? We can't be out here bad-mouthing the cops and talking back to them and sticking up your middle. You do that, you never know what they're going to do to you. And it's your own fault because you're not being obedient. We're in captivity under the so-called white man because of our sin. So we have to, obey what we have to obey, whatever they tell you. Unless it's telling you to break the Most High's commandments, and that's a whole nother subject. So it says, where is they speak against you as evildoers. So they might try to say you evil. Why? Because you're teaching the Most High's commandments. That's what they'll say. Or they'll say you're a coon because you're telling people to obey the laws out here in this land. So they'll say, oh, who do you think he is? Okay, well, at least we're alive. We're not out here getting shot. So we'll see who's doing the right thing. All right, it says, they made by your good works, which thou shalt behold God in the day of visitation. So we're supposed to be honest even among the other nations, not just among ourselves. 13. 2 and 13.
Okay, submit yourself to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether it be to be king as supreme.
So it says, submit yourselves to every ordinance of man. So this is not talking about the Most High. It's talking about even the laws that's down here on this earth. We're to submit to these ordinances. That means law. For the Lord's sake, meaning the Most High will honor you. The Most High will bless you because you're obeying Him. It says whether it be to the king or as supreme. So even when we go among these judges, even though they're wicked, we still supposed to obey. We still supposed to not obey wickedness, but we still supposed to, cooperate. Follow the laws of the land. As long as they don't contradict the Most High's laws. If they contradict the Most High's laws, it's a whole nother story. 14.
Or unto governors, as unto them that are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers, and for the praise of them that do well.
All right, so we're supposed to be obedient to governors and whoever's in power. When it says be obedient, whatever law they tell you to follow, follow. All right, and it says for the punishment of evildoers, because the Most High will use them to punish you. The Most High will use their hand to punish you, whether it be jail, prison, which is basically the same thing, but prison, you be in there much longer. That's basically one of the differences.
That are sent by him.
Yeah, the Most High sent them after you because you were being wicked. You wasn't keeping the Most High's commandment. You got to keep the Most High's commandments and the commandments of the land that we live in, because we're in captivity. We're going to have to obey. If we don't, then what's going to happen? You're going to be on the news, getting your head blown off by police, getting your head smashed in, because you don't want to be obedient. You want to be foolish. You're going to be on the news like all the other so-called Negroes and the other ones that be out here acting a fool out here. All right? That's how that works. And don't tell me that the person was innocent, because even though they may be innocent, they may look innocent this time, they're getting paid for something they did in the past. All right? No one dies in vain. The Most High is not a murderer. He doesn't just kill people for no reason. You have to have done something. All right? 15.
For so it is the will of God, that with well-doing ye may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men.
You see that? So it's the will of the Most High for us to, we're in this captivity right now, and we have to obey the people who are in charge. The ones, the governor and mayor. You have to do, just like when you go to your job, you have to obey what the boss says, or what's going to happen? You're going to lose your job. You're going to get fired, can't pay your bills, you out in the street, you can't take care of your children, your wife leaves, all kind of foolishness, all because you've been disobedient to the Most High's commandments. And one of the commandments is for you to obey the powers that be. All right? So let's go to the book of Romans 13 and 1. This is the famous one that you hear a lot.
The book of Romans, chapter 13, verse 1. Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but that of God. The powers that be are ordained of God.
You see that? The scriptures tell us to be subject unto the higher powers. What's the higher powers it's speaking of? It's not talking about the angels. It's talking about who's in charge, the rulers. Okay? It says, but there is no power but of God. So the Most High is the one who put the other nations over us, the so-called white man mainly. So he put them over us. Why? Because we broke the Most High's commandments. It says the powers that are ordained of God. So the Most High is the one who ordained the so-called white man and the other nations that have us up in this captivity, because we broke the Most High's commandments. 13 and 2.
For whosoever therefore resisteth the power resisteth the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation.
You see that? So the scriptures say that if you resist the power, meaning the power structure that's set up, it's saying you're resisting the Most High. So now we got a problem because now you're going against the Most High now. You understand? So it's very important that you obey these powers that are set up. Like there's certain things that some of us want to do. We want to sell stuff. We want to, drive certain places. But you have to, they tell you to get a license and do it their way, then you have to do it. Or what's going to happen? You're disobeying the Most High. All right? We in captivity. All right? We in captivity, and we're in captivity because we broke the Most High's commandments. And the scriptures say if you do that, you're going to receive greater damnation. What do you think happened to those people, those Negroes those Negroes and those Hispanics and Indians that disobeyed the power? What do you think they are now? What do you think they are now? They're getting damned. They're damnation. Why? Because they didn't do what the Most High instructed us to do. All right, He told us to obey the powers that be. All right, go ahead. 3.
For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil, which thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same.
You see that? These rulers are not terrible. Rulers are not a terror for people that's doing good works. They're not here set up for that. But to the evil. So if you're evil, yeah, you're gonna be afraid of the cops. Yeah, you're gonna be afraid of the judge. You're gonna be scared to go in front of the judge because you're wicked. They're here to punish you because you're doing wicked. You're doing wickedness, not because you're doing righteousness. If they accuse you of a crime and say you did it and you go in front of a judge, and if you're righteous and the Most High's with you, you'll get off. But if you're being wicked, you're gonna be locked up in jail. That's what's gonna happen to you. So you have no reason to be afraid of any of the rulers of this world, because if you're doing righteousness, the Most High will fight for you. If you're doing wickedness, yeah, he'll put you into their hand. It says, do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. So if you're a good model citizen down here, ain't nobody going to speak evil against you. They're not going to, when you go in front of these judges, that they're not going to basically, sentence you into jail, because the Most High will be with you. The Most High is the one who set up these powers. All right, go ahead, brother. 4.
For he is the minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid, for he beareth not the sword in vain. For he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil.
You see that? So the so-called white man the scriptures say he's a minister of God for good. But if you're doing that which evil, be afraid. Yeah, be afraid, because you're being wicked. That's why you need to be afraid. Not really afraid of them, but afraid of what the Most High might use them to do. All right? Because the Most High want to take vengeance upon you. He'll use one of these officers out here, and they'll execute vengeance. They'll give you that sword, which today is the gun. All right? It says, and he's a revenger. The Most High uses him to execute vengeance upon the wicked ones of us. So knowing that, yes, we need to fear. Yes, we need to be humble and do what we have to do as long as we down here. The Most High is going to deliver us out of this, but we have to do what we told to do. All right.
Verse 5. Wherefore ye must needs to be subject, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake.
So we need to be subject, not just because you're afraid of getting killed or going to jail, but also for your conscience, to know that in your conscience you did the right thing. All right, I'm about to end this video and I'm about to start another one, because this video is about to end. Shalom. Shalom.